The galaxy had rules about water worlds, and the most important rule was simple: stay away. Every spacefaring species knew this basic fact of survival. Water worlds were death traps, places where crushing pressure and endless depths claimed the lives of anyone foolish enough to venture into their blue-black waters. The Caltharian Empire had learned this lesson the hard way 300 years ago, when they sent their finest exploration fleet to investigate Oceanus Prime. The fleet vanished without a trace, consumed by waters so deep that their most advanced submarines were crushed like tin cans. The Vortani Republic fared no better when they attempted to establish mining operations on the water world. Aquatica 7, their silicon-based biology meant that even a single drop of water could dissolve their crystalline forms, making water worlds as deadly to them as pools of acid. Commander Blake Morrison stood in the great assembly hall of the Galactic Council, watching the holographic display of planet Hydro 7 rotate slowly before the gathered alien delegates. The water world was beautiful in its simplicity, an endless sphere of deep blue marked only by swirling storm systems that generated electromagnetic pulses powerful enough to scramble most known technology. Blake had spent 30 years beneath Earth's oceans before humanity made first contact with the galaxy 2 years ago. He knew the sea better than most people knew dry land, and what he saw on the display didn't scare him. It excited him. Ambassador Thyron of the Caltharian Empire spoke first, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence as he addressed the assembly. His voice carried the weight of centuries of fear when he described the energy readings coming from deep beneath Hydro 7's surface. Massive structures had been detected at depths exceeding 12 kilometers, but no known technology could reach them safely. The Vortani delegate Elder Quilt communicated through the neural interface that all council members wore, his thoughts appearing as glowing text in their minds. His message was simple and direct: abandon the system immediately. The risks were too great, and the rewards too uncertain. Blake listened to delegate after delegate explain why Hydro 7 should be classified as an exclusion zone. The Zentarians spoke of gravitational anomalies that had torn their survey ships apart. The Rigelian Confederacy described electromagnetic storms that had driven their crews insane with impossible visions. Each species had its own horror story about water worlds, and each story ended the same way, with death and disaster. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat beside Blake, reviewing data on her tablet while the aliens debated. She was Earth's leading expert on deep-sea biology, and she had volunteered to join the expedition the moment they learned about Hydro 7. Her fingers moved across the screen, comparing the alien water world to Earth's deepest ocean trenches. When the debate finally ended and Ambassador Thyron called for a formal vote to classify Hydro 7 as forbidden territory, Blake stood up slowly. The assembly hall fell silent as all eyes turned to the human representative. Most of the aliens had barely acknowledged humanity's presence in the galaxy. Viewing them as newcomers who should be seen and not heard, Blake activated his own holographic display, showing Earth's oceans in all their glory. The images revealed human cities built on the ocean floor, mining operations in the deepest trenches, and research stations that operated at pressures that would instantly kill most galactic species. The assembled delegates stared in shock as they watched humans swimming freely in environments that their own species considered uninhabitable. The presentation showed the Mariana Trench, Earth's deepest known point at over 11 kilometers below the surface. Human submersibles moved through the crushing darkness like fish, their crews working calmly in conditions that exceeded the pressure. Readings from Hydro 7, the aliens watched footage of human children learning to swim before they could walk, of adults who spent their entire careers beneath the waves, of a civilization that had embraced the ocean as completely as any land-based culture. Elder Quilt's mental transmission carried disbelief and confusion. He asked how humans could possibly survive in such hostile environments, how they could function where pressure would crush their vessels and water would dissolve their equipment. His people had evolved on a desert world where water existed only as vapor in the atmosphere, and the concept of willingly submerging oneself in liquid was as foreign to them as breathing methane. Blake's response was simple and confident. He explained that humans had evolved on a water world, that over 70% of Earth's surface was covered by oceans. Humanity had learned to navigate, explore, and thrive in aquatic environments long before they developed space travel. The depths that terrified other species were humanity's natural habitat. Dr. Vasquez stood to support Blake's proposal, adding scientific data about human physiology and psychology. She explained how human bodies were perfectly adapted for aquatic environments, how their lungs could process oxygen efficiently even under pressure, how their minds remained calm in the crushing darkness that drove other species to madness. She showed genetic evidence that humans had spent significant portions of their evolutionary history in and around water. The alien delegates began to murmur among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of electromagnetic pulses, telepathic transmissions, and harmonic vibrations. The concept of a species that voluntarily entered water worlds was beyond their understanding, like discovering a race that thrived in the heart of a star or the vacuum of space. Ambassador Thyron finally spoke, his voice trembling with something between fear and fascination. He asked if humans truly believed they could succeed where so many others had failed, if they were prepared to risk their lives exploring a world that had already claimed countless alien vessels. His 6 eyes focused on Blake with the intensity of someone trying to understand an incomprehensible alien mindset. Blake's answer would become legendary throughout the galaxy in the years that followed. He told the assembly that humans didn't see water worlds as death traps or forbidden zones. They saw them as unexplored frontiers, as challenges to be overcome rather than obstacles to be avoided. He explained that humanity's greatest discoveries had always come from diving into the unknown, from exploring the places that others feared to go. The vote was unanimous when it finally came. The Galactic Council authorized the human expedition to Hydro 7, partly out of scientific curiosity and partly because no one else was willing to take the risk. As the assembly dispersed, Blake could hear the aliens discussing the humans in hushed tones, wondering what kind of species would volunteer for what they considered a suicide mission. Dr. Vasquez remained behind as the Great Hall emptied, studying the rotating image of Hydro 7 with the expression of someone who had found the opportunity of a lifetime. She told Blake that the energy readings from the planet's depths suggested something extraordinary was waiting to be discovered, something that could change their understanding of life in the galaxy. Blake nodded, already making mental preparations for the expedition. He thought about the human crews who would volunteer for the mission, knowing that they would face dangers that had destroyed alien civilizations for centuries. But he also knew that those same crews had grown up swimming in Earth's oceans, had learned to respect the water without fearing it. As they left the council chamber, Blake couldn't help but smile at the irony. The galaxy's greatest fear might become humanity's greatest opportunity, and the depths that had claimed so many alien lives might finally reveal their secrets to a species that called the ocean home. 3 months after the Galactic Council meeting, the human expedition ship Deep Explorer approached the edge of the Hydro 7 system. Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge, watching the massive water world grow larger on the main screen. The planet was even more impressive up close, its surface a constant dance of storms and currents that would have terrified most galactic species. Reed had commanded deep-sea vessels for over 20 years before the expedition, leading research missions to Earth's most dangerous underwater locations. His crew of 30 specialists represented the best of humanity's aquatic expertise, from marine biologists to deep-sea engineers. Each member had volunteered knowing they would face conditions that had destroyed every alien attempt at exploration. Lieutenant Maya Chun reported from the science station, her voice steady despite the magnitude of their mission. The atmospheric readings showed massive electromagnetic disturbances that would scramble most alien technology, but the human ship systems had been designed to handle Earth's violent ocean storms. The pressure readings from the planet's surface were within acceptable parameters for human diving equipment. Chief Engineer David Park looked up from his diagnostics panel, confirming that all systems were operating perfectly. The expedition ship carried humanity's most advanced underwater technology, including pressure suits rated for depths exceeding 20 kilometers and submersibles that could operate in conditions that would crush conventional spacecraft. The centerpiece of their equipment was the Abyss Runner, a deep-sea exploration vessel designed specifically for the Hydro 7 mission, communications. Officer Lisa Torres received a transmission from the Caltharian monitoring station positioned 3 light minutes away from the water world. Ambassador Theron was requesting final confirmation that the humans intended to proceed with their insane plan. The alien observers had established their safe distance after careful calculations determined it was the closest they could approach without risking their own lives. Reed smiled at the alien concern, understanding their perspective while remaining confident in human capabilities. He instructed Torres to confirm their intention to proceed and to remind the Caltharians that if they lost contact, they should wait at least a week before assuming the worst. The bridge crew chuckled at their captain's dry humor, but everyone understood the serious nature of their mission. Dr. Elena Vasquez emerged from the equipment bay wearing her prototype pressure suit, its sleek design incorporating decades of human diving experience with cutting-edge technology. The suit systems could maintain life support at crushing depths while providing full mobility and sensory input. She reported that preliminary scans were detecting artificial structures beneath Hydro 7's surface, constructions that appeared to be cities or installations of enormous size. Reed felt his pulse quicken at the implications. If the readings were accurate, they were approaching a world with active civilizations rather than empty ruins. The energy signatures coming from the depths suggested advanced technology, possibly more sophisticated than anything in the known galaxy. As the Deep Explorer entered Hydro 7's atmosphere, the ship encountered the fierce storms that had destroyed so many alien vessels. Lightning that would have overloaded most galactic technology merely caused brief fluctuations in the human ship's power grid. The vessel had been designed with Earth's hurricanes and typhoons in mind. Built to weather conditions that most species considered apocalyptic, the ship struck the alien ocean surface with a tremendous splash, sending waves of purple-tinted water cascading over the hull. For a moment, the bridge lights dimmed as the vessel's systems adjusted to their new environment. Then gradually the Deep Explorer began its descent beneath the waves, becoming the first non-native vessel to successfully enter a waterworld's depths. Reed watched through the viewports as the alien ocean embraced their ship. The water was unlike Earth's seas, colored a deep purple-black by unknown minerals and illuminated by strange bioluminescent creatures that pulsed and danced in the darkness. The pressure readings climbed steadily as they descended, but the human vessel showed no signs of stress. At 5 kilometers depth, deeper than most alien species had ever ventured underwater, the ship's sensors began detecting the first signs of artificial activity. Massive shapes moved in the darkness below, too large and too organized to be natural formations. Park reported that the energy readings were unlike anything in their databases, suggesting technology based on principles that human science was only beginning to understand. The descent continued through depths that had claimed countless alien lives. At 8 kilometers, the pressure exceeded the crushing force that had destroyed the Caltharian exploration fleet centuries ago. At 10 kilometers, they passed the depth where Vortani mining operations had been obliterated by forces beyond their understanding. At 12 kilometers, they reached the deepest point any known alien technology had ever achieved. Chun suddenly called out from her station, her voice tight with excitement and concern. The sensors were detecting multiple large contacts directly below them, and these contacts were moving with purpose and intelligence. Whatever lived in Hydro 7's depths knew about their arrival and was responding accordingly. Reed ordered the ship to maintain position while they assessed the situation. Through the viewports, the crew began to see lights emerging from the darkness below. These weren't the random flashing of bioluminescent creatures, but organized patterns that suggested advanced intelligence and technology. The lights grew brighter and more numerous as they approached, revealing shapes that defied conventional understanding. The first structures to emerge from the depths were clearly artificial, yet unlike anything in galactic databases. They moved through the water with graceful efficiency, their surfaces covered in patterns of living light that pulsed. With apparent communication, Torres reported that she was detecting acoustic signals, complex harmonic patterns that seemed to carry information. Unlike the electromagnetic communications used by most galactic species, these signals traveled through the water as sophisticated sonic transmissions. The mathematical precision of the patterns suggested intelligence far beyond simple animal communication. Dr. Vasquez pressed her face to the viewport, her scientific mind racing to comprehend what they were witnessing. The structures approaching their ship were massive, some exceeding a kilometer in length, yet they moved through the crushing depths with the fluid grace of marine life. Their surfaces appeared to be organic rather than metallic, covered in what looked like living coral formations that generated both light and sound. Reed realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. These beings had evolved to thrive in the very environment that other species considered uninhabitable. They had built their civilization in the crushing depths that served as graveyards for alien technology. The largest of the approaching entities positioned itself directly in front of the deep explorer, its surface patterns shifting to display what appeared to be formal greeting protocols. The acoustic transmission that accompanied the display was complex and layered, containing emotional context and spatial information in addition to basic communication. Chun worked frantically to decode the harmonic patterns, running them through every translation protocol in their databases. The signals were incredibly sophisticated, each frequency carrying multiple layers of meaning. It was like music, but music that conveyed precise scientific and cultural information. Reed made the decision that would change galactic history. He ordered Torres to respond using their ship's acoustic systems, transmitting simple harmonic patterns that indicated peaceful intent and a desire for communication. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive, with the surrounding entities brightening their displays and moving closer to the human vessel. As the first successful communication between humans and the deep-dwelling civilization began, Reed understood that they had discovered something far more significant than anyone had imagined. The water worlds weren't empty death traps as the galaxy believed. They were home to an advanced civilization that had been waiting for someone brave enough to meet them in their domain. The acoustic signals filled the bridge of the Deep Explorer with sounds unlike anything the human crew had ever experienced. The harmonic patterns seemed to bypass the ears entirely, resonating through the ship's hull and into their bones. Lieutenant Mayachin worked desperately to understand the mathematical precision of the communications, her translation programs, struggling to process information that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Captain Marcus Reed watched as more entities emerged from the depths around their ship. Each new arrival was unique in size and configuration, but all shared the same organic architecture and bioluminescent communication systems. The largest of these beings was easily twice the size of the human vessel, yet it moved through the water with the graceful efficiency of a dolphin. Dr. Elena Vasquez had never seen anything like the creatures surrounding them. Her expertise in marine biology provided some context, but these beings transcended conventional understanding of life in aquatic environments. They appeared to be living ships, their hulls covered in coral formations that served both structural and communicative functions. The integration of biology and technology was so complete that it was impossible to determine where the organism ended and the machine began. Chief Engineer David Park monitored their defensive systems while marveling at the engineering implications of what they were witnessing. The entities showed no signs of mechanical propulsion, yet they moved through the crushing depths with perfect control and efficiency. Their energy signatures suggested power sources far beyond anything in human technology. Yet there were no radiation readings or heat signatures that would indicate conventional fusion or antimatter systems. The lead entity had positioned itself directly in front of the Deep Explorer, its surface patterns shifting through complex displays that seemed to convey both greeting and curiosity. Through Chun's translation efforts, they began to understand that the patterns weren't just communication, but also a form of identification and historical record. Each entity carried the story of its creation and purpose in its bioluminescent displays. Communications Officer Lisa Torres received another frantic transmission from the Caltharian monitoring station. Ambassador Theron was detecting the massive acoustic communications and interpreting them as signs of an attack. The alien observers were prepared to retreat to an even safer distance, convinced that the humans had encountered the legendary sea monsters that haunted galactic nightmares about water worlds. Reed instructed Torres to inform the Caltharians that they were conducting peaceful first contact with a previously unknown civilization. The irony wasn't lost on him that the galaxy's most feared environments were home to beings who appeared to be remarkably welcoming and curious about their visitors. Chun finally achieved a breakthrough in the translation process, discovering that the acoustic patterns contained layered information far more complex than typical galactic communications. The beings called themselves the Pelagic Collective, and they had been the guardians of water worlds throughout the galaxy for millions of years. Their communications revealed a civilization that had evolved in perfect harmony with the deep ocean, environments that other species avoided. The translation revealed an incredible history. The Pelagic Collective had developed in the deepest ocean trenches of their homeworld, evolving biotechnology that allowed them to survive and thrive in conditions that would instantly kill most galactic species. As they developed space travel capabilities, they had discovered that water worlds throughout the galaxy were uninhabited, abandoned by the sky dwellers who feared the crushing depths. Dr. Vasquez felt her scientific worldview expanding as she absorbed the implications of the collective's existence. These beings had spent millions of years perfecting life in aquatic environments, developing biological solutions to problems that conventional technology couldn't address. Their knowledge of deep-sea ecosystems, pressure adaptation, and underwater civilization could revolutionize humanity's understanding of life in the galaxy. The largest entity began transmitting more detailed information about their society and technology. The acoustic patterns painted pictures in the mind, showing vast underwater cities that spanned entire ocean floors. The collective had developed biotechnology that could manipulate living organisms at the molecular level, creating structures and vessels that were grown rather than built. Reed realized they were witnessing the discovery of a civilization that predated most known galactic species by millions of years. The Pelagic Collective had been exploring and colonizing water worlds, while other species were still developing basic space travel. They had built an interstellar civilization in the very environments that the rest of the galaxy considered uninhabitable. Chun continued translating the complex communications, revealing that the collective had been waiting for centuries to encounter another species capable of joining them in the depths. They had observed the sky dwellers from afar, hoping that eventually someone would develop the courage and capability to explore the water worlds that served as their domain. The acoustic transmission shifted to express what could only be described as joy and excitement. The pelagic entities had detected humanity's arrival and recognized them as the first species to willingly enter the deep waters without fear. The collective's communications conveyed their eagerness to share knowledge and establish formal relations with beings who could appreciate their aquatic civilization. Park reported that the entities were demonstrating their technology, showing how their bioluminescent systems could generate power, provide propulsion, and even manipulate matter at the molecular level. The engineering principles they employed were based on biological processes that human science was only beginning to understand. Torres received updated transmissions from the Caltharian monitoring station, reporting that water worlds throughout the local sector were beginning to show massive energy signatures. The Pelagic Collective was revealing their presence to the galaxy, announcing their existence to the sky dwellers who had feared them for so long. The lead entity transmitted a formal invitation, its acoustic patterns conveying respect and anticipation. The collective wanted to show the humans their city, to demonstrate the full scope of their underwater civilization. The invitation carried the weight of historical significance, representing the first time any sky-dwelling species had been welcomed. Into the depths. Dr. Vasquez understood that they were being offered the opportunity of several lifetimes. The chance to study an advanced aquatic civilization, to learn biotechnology that could transform human understanding of life in extreme environments, and to explore cities that had existed in the galaxy's depths for millions of years. Reed felt the responsibility of the moment weighing on his shoulders. The decision they made would determine humanity's relationship with an entire civilization that the galaxy had never known existed. The Pelagic Collective was offering to share knowledge and technology that could revolutionize space exploration, but it required a level of trust that no other species had been willing to provide. Chun translated the final part of the invitation, revealing that the collective wanted to provide the humans with temporary biological modifications that would allow them to experience their underwater cities directly. The offer was unprecedented, representing a level of technological and biological integration that most galactic species would consider impossible. As the Deep Explorer's crew contemplated the invitation that would change the course of galactic history, Reed understood that humanity was once again proving that the greatest discoveries came from embracing the unknown rather than fearing it. The water worlds that had terrified the galaxy for millennia were about to reveal their greatest secret to the one species brave enough to dive into their depths. The pelagic city rose from the ocean floor like a living dream, its structures flowing and organic in ways that defied every conventional understanding of architecture. Captain Marcus Reed watched through the Deep Explorer's viewports as they descended through massive biomechanical locks that adjusted water pressure in carefully controlled stages. The walls of these chambers pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to welcome their passage into the heart of an alien civilization. Chief Engineer David Park monitored the pressure readings with professional fascination. They had descended to 18 kilometers depth, far beyond the crushing forces that had destroyed alien expeditions for centuries. Yet the human vessel continued to function perfectly, its systems designed with Earth's most extreme ocean conditions in mind. The pelagic technology that guided their descent was unlike anything in galactic databases, using biological processes to manipulate pressure and flow with mathematical precision. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed against the viewport, her scientific mind struggling to comprehend the scope of what they were witnessing. The city wasn't built in any conventional sense but grown like a massive coral reef. Every structure was alive, pulsing with the rhythm of biological processes that served architectural functions. Corridors expanded and contracted to regulate water flow, while communication networks spread through living neural pathways that connected every part of the city. Lieutenant Maya Shun continued translating the complex acoustic communications that filled the water around them. The pelagic entities were sharing detailed information about their society, their history, and their technology. The translation revealed that the collective had been exploring water worlds for over 100,000 years, establishing cities and outposts throughout the galaxy while the Skydwellers remained ignorant of their existence. The Deep Explorer emerged from the final pressure lock into a vast underwater plaza that stretched beyond the limits of their sensors. The city spread in all directions, its bioluminescent structures creating a light show that painted the dark waters in shifting patterns of blue, green, and violet. Pelagic entities of every size moved through the water with purpose, from small messenger units to massive transport vessels that dwarfed the human ship. Reed received another transmission from the Caltharian monitoring station through communications officer Lisa Torres. Ambassador Theron was reporting massive energy buildups throughout the star system and requesting immediate evacuation protocols. The alien observers were convinced that the humans had triggered some kind of ancient defense system that would destroy everything in the surrounding space. The captain couldn't help but smile at the misunderstanding. The Caltharians were detecting the pelagic collective revealing their true presence throughout the galaxy, lighting up water worlds that had been hidden from Skydweller awareness for millennia. What the aliens interpreted as weapon signatures were actually celebration displays, marking the first successful contact between the collective and a species capable of appreciating their aquatic domain. A particularly impressive pelagic entity approached the deep explorer, its surface patterns displaying formal diplomatic protocols that had been refined over millions of years of intercolony communication. The acoustic transmission that accompanied its approach was layered with cultural and historical information, revealing the sophisticated social structure that governed collective society. Chun's translation revealed that they were being invited to meet with the deep speakers, the governing council that guided pelagic civilization throughout the galaxy. The invitation was unprecedented, representing the first time that skydwellers had been offered formal audience with the beings who controlled the water worlds that other species feared to approach. Dr. Vasquez understood the scientific implications of what was being offered. The pelagic collective had spent millions of years developing biotechnology that could manipulate living organisms at the molecular level. Their knowledge of pressure adaptation, underwater ecosystem management, and biological engineering could revolutionize human understanding of life in extreme environments. Park analyzed the energy readings coming from the city's core systems, marveling at technology that seemed to violate basic principles of physics. The collective had developed biological fusion processes that generated enormous amounts of clean energy without radiation or waste products. Their power systems were based on engineered organisms that performed nuclear reactions at the cellular level. The translation continued to reveal details about collective society that challenged every assumption about life in the galaxy. They had developed space travel through liquid mediums, creating vessels that could transition seamlessly between ocean depths and interstellar space. Their exploration techniques allowed them to study water worlds in ways that conventional technology could never achieve. Reed made the decision that would define humanity's relationship with the most advanced civilization in known space. He accepted the invitation to meet with the deep speakers, understanding that this moment would be remembered as the first formal diplomatic contact between skydwellers and the guardians of the depths. The escort entity guided the deep explorer through the city's main thoroughfares, past structures that served functions beyond human comprehension. Living buildings processed water and nutrients for the entire urban ecosystem, while biological networks carried information at speeds that exceeded electromagnetic transmission. The integration of life and technology was so complete that the distinction between organism and machine had ceased to exist. Torres received updated reports from the Caltharian monitoring station, indicating that water worlds throughout the local galactic sector were beginning to show coordinated activity. The pelagic collective was announcing their presence to the entire galaxy, ending millions of years of hidden existence in response to humanity's successful contact. Chun translated communications from other collective colonies throughout the region, revealing the scope of their civilization for the first time. Hundreds of water worlds hosted pelagic cities and installations, creating a hidden network of advanced technology that spanned significant portions of the galaxy. The skydwellers had been sharing space with a superior civilization without ever knowing it existed. The deep explorer arrived at the council chambers, a spherical structure at the heart of the city that served as the seat of collective governance. The chamber's acoustic properties had been engineered over millions of years to facilitate communication between entities across vast distances, creating a three-dimensional sound environment where thoughts could be transmitted with perfect clarity. Dr. Vasquez prepared for the most significant xenobiological encounter in human history, knowing that she would be studying beings whose evolutionary path had taken them in directions that challenged basic assumptions about life in the universe. The pelagic collective represented proof that intelligent life could develop in ways that conventional galactic civilization had never imagined. Park completed final system checks as they prepared to dock with the council chambers, marveling at biotechnology that could manipulate matter and energy through purely biological processes. The engineering principles employed by the collective suggested solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Reed understood that humanity was about to become the bridge between two completely different approaches to galactic civilization. The Skydwellers had developed technology based on mechanical and electromagnetic principles, while the collective had perfected biological solutions to the same challenges. The meeting between these approaches could revolutionize understanding of what was possible in the universe. As the Deep Explorer prepared to make formal contact with the beings who ruled the water worlds that had terrified the galaxy for millions of years, Reed reflected on the irony of the situation. Humanity's willingness to embrace the depths that other species feared had led them to discover the most advanced civilization in known space, hidden in plain sight beneath the waves that everyone else was too afraid to explore. The biosuits felt alive against their skin as Captain Marcus Reed and his diplomatic team prepared for the most important meeting in galactic history. The organic material pulsed with gentle rhythms that matched their heartbeats, monitoring vital signs and adjusting life support systems automatically. Dr. Elena Vasquez marveled at the sophistication of the technology, noting how the biosuits seemed to anticipate her needs before she was even aware of them. The suits were themselves examples of pelagic biotechnology, living organisms that had been engineered to bond temporarily with foreign life forms. They provided oxygen extraction from the surrounding water, pressure protection for depths that would crush unprotected bodies, and acoustic communication systems that allowed clear speech in the dense liquid environment of the city. Reed tested his mobility in the suit, finding that it enhanced rather than restricted his movement through the water. The biosuit's propulsion systems responded to his thoughts, providing thrust when he needed to move quickly and stability when he needed to examine something closely. Chief Engineer David Park reported that the suits were monitoring their biological functions and providing nutrient supplements to maintain peak performance. Lieutenant Maya Chun swam alongside their pelagic escorts through the living corridors of the city, her acoustic translation systems working continuously to process the complex communications that filled the water around them. The city itself seemed to be alive and aware, its bioluminescent patterns responding to their presence as they moved through passages that expanded and contracted to accommodate their passage. The team of 5 humans followed their guides through districts that served functions beyond their understanding. Living factories processed raw materials through biological systems that operated with perfect efficiency, while residential areas housed pelagic entities and structures that grew and adapted to their inhabitants' needs. The integration of life and technology was so complete that the city functioned more like a massive organism than a conventional urban environment. Communications. Officer Lisa Torres received constant updates from the Deep Explorer, which remained docked at the diplomatic facility while monitoring communications throughout the star system. The Keltharian monitoring station was reporting unprecedented activity on water worlds throughout the galaxy, as the Pelagic Collective revealed their presence to the Skydwellers for the first time in millions of years. The Deep Speakers Council chamber was unlike anything in galactic civilization. The spherical space at the city's heart had been grown rather than built, its walls covered in living coral that generated complex acoustic patterns. The water itself had been engineered to enhance sound transmission, creating a 3-dimensional communication environment where thoughts could be shared with perfect clarity across vast distances. 5 massive pelagic entities waited in the chamber, their forms more elaborate and sophisticated than the scouts and escorts the humans had encountered. These were clearly the eldest of their kind, their bioluminescent patterns showing the complexity and wisdom that came from millions of years of evolution and experience. Each deep speaker represented a different aspect of collective civilization, from scientific research to interstellar exploration. The lead deep speaker transmitted a formal greeting that contained layers of meaning far beyond simple words. Through Chion's translation systems, Reed could sense the entity's curiosity, its hope, and its ancient loneliness. The acoustic pattern spoke of countless cycles spent waiting for others who could join them in the deep places that Skydwellers feared to explore. Red responded using the basic acoustic protocols they had learned during their descent. His biosuit translating his words into harmonic patterns that carried both meaning and emotional context. He spoke of humanity's respect for the ocean depths and their desire to learn from beings who had mastered aquatic environments that other species considered uninhabitable, the deep. Speaker's response carried surprise and delight at humanity's willingness to venture into the crushing depths that had claimed so many alien lives. The acoustic patterns revealed that other species had occasionally detected the collective's presence, but all had fled in terror when they realized that the water worlds were inhabited by beings beyond their understanding. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol as she asked about the biotechnology that made pelagic civilization possible. The deep speaker's response was a sharing of knowledge that would revolutionize galactic understanding of life in extreme environments, revealing techniques for manipulating living organisms at the molecular level and creating structures that grew rather than being assembled. The exchange of information that followed was unprecedented in galactic history. The Pelagic Collective shared data about hundreds of water worlds throughout the galaxy, each one home to thriving communities that had remained hidden from Skydweller awareness. They revealed space travel techniques that used biological rather than mechanical propulsion, opening possibilities for exploration that conventional technology could never achieve. Chen translated communications from collective colonies throughout the galaxy, each one adding its voice to the welcoming chorus that greeted humanity's arrival in the depths. The network of acoustic communication that connected pelagic civilization across interstellar distances was celebrating the end of their isolation from the galaxy's other intelligent species. Park analyzed the biological fusion technology that powered the city, understanding for the first time how living organisms could be engineered to perform nuclear reactions at the cellular level. The energy systems developed by the collective were completely clean and sustainable, providing unlimited power without radiation or waste products that plague conventional galactic technology. The deep speakers revealed that they had been monitoring galactic civilization for millions of years, waiting for a species that would develop the courage and capability to explore the water worlds that served as their domain. They had watched skydwellers expand throughout the galaxy, while avoiding the aquatic environments where the most advanced civilization in known space had been thriving. Torres received reports from the Deep Explorer about communications from the Galactic Council, where emergency sessions were being called to address the massive energy signatures appearing on water worlds throughout known space. The alien species that had feared these worlds for millennia were finally discovering that their greatest fears had been hiding their greatest opportunity. Reed understood the historical significance of the moment as the deep speakers offered to share their advanced biotechnology with humanity. The collective was prepared to provide knowledge about pressure adaptation, underwater ecosystem management, and biological engineering that could transform human understanding of life in extreme environments throughout the galaxy. The lead deep speaker's acoustic patterns shifted to express something like joy as it revealed the collective's greatest hope. They wanted to establish formal diplomatic relations between their aquatic civilization and the skydwellers, with humanity serving as the bridge between two completely different approaches to galactic society. Dr. Vasquez realized that they were being offered the chance to study biotechnology that was millions of years more advanced than anything in galactic civilization. The knowledge shared by the collective could revolutionize medicine, space travel, environmental restoration, and countless other fields that had struggled with problems the pelagic entities had solved eons ago. The deep speakers transmitted star maps showing the locations of collective colonies throughout the galaxy, revealing a hidden civilization that spanned thousands of water worlds. They offered to guide human exploration of these environments, sharing knowledge that would allow skydwellers to appreciate the beauty and complexity of aquatic worlds they had feared for so long. Reed felt the weight of representing humanity in this moment that would reshape galactic civilization. The Pelagic Collective was offering an alliance that would give humanity access to the most advanced biotechnology in known space, while humanity could serve as ambassadors to help other species overcome their fear of the depths. As the diplomatic session concluded with agreements that would echo through galactic history, Reed reflected on the irony that humanity's greatest discovery had come from embracing the environment that other species feared most. The water worlds that had served as exclusion zones for millions of years were about to become humanity's greatest frontier, opening possibilities that would transform understanding of what was possible in the galaxy.